Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Keen Minds. We're covering NBC's The Blacklist. This is Season 5, Episode 13, The Invisible Hand. I'm Jen, a.k.a. Takata Cycle.
And I'm Tessa.
And Tessa is not dying from the flu this week, which is always good.
Yay!
You guys can't see her, but she looks a ton better.
I don't look like death warmed over. Just slightly warm.
I was a little worried last week, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, how did you like this episode this week?
I like the Blacklisters were okay. I love Red Adventures of Red and the Mailman in a candy factory with Little Big Willie. I mean, that just priceless.
William.
And I certainly enjoy any episode in which Dom is part of, and this was Dom with Liz. And I maybe it is because I had already gathered that Garvey was law enforcement or intelligence, and that Singleton was with him. I knew all that before. I mean, I had heard the voice. It was the internal affairs detective. I knew Singleton was aligned with Garvey and taking his information from him. So it wasn't news for him. And I'm like, so Dom is Orlando. That's all I get. That's a little snippet you're giving me.
It was funny, after the episode was done, I looked at the roomie, I said, well, Tessa was off base with Dom being Scottish. He is Russian. But she was far too close. It's kind of terrifying how close she was on the law enforcement. Because you and I had disagreed on that. I said, well, if he is law enforcement, he must be the biggest egotist known to mankind. Yep, he's just an egotist. Mm-hmm. The fact that he's going into the field like he does...
He's a U.S. Marshal.
Yeah.
He's basically untouchable. And he, I mean, I never said that Dom was not Russian. I think he was of Russian origin. And I still not convinced that he was born in Russia. I mean, that just doesn't jive with the freezers and the toys that are American for Katerina. I have a lot of problems what it seems to be. I mean, everything is just colliding. And I'm like, episode 13 and this season we've had like 2 little snippets of mythology. I mean, really.
It's been frustrating. For someone that started the back half of this season incredibly frustrated and upset with the show, the lack of mythology has been... It's been having me... I've been pulling my hair. It's been so frustrating. And, I mean, I know that they're dragging it out is what they're doing. And that's been a complaint all across the fandom, outside with casual viewers even sometimes. I know friends that just stopped watching. Because this writing team has a bad habit of dragging it out. And I remember listening to an interview or reading an interview or something with Bokenkamp a couple years ago, where he was talking about that he was, this was one of his first television shows that he'd written for. When he pitched the idea, he tried to pitch the ending to them. They said, no, you don't do that, because you've got to make... If we can go 8 seasons, or, insert number of seasons here, then you need to make that work. And so this kind of has been a learning process for him on how to... pace that out. Thank you. And I don't know if that's what's influenced it, but the major complaint that I have heard from both friends that love the show and are in the fandom, and from those that I know, most of my friends that that are not fandom members but have watched it no longer watch it because the daddy issue just was stretched on too long. They said there are too many mysteries that could have been put in here for that one to be stretched out quite as long as it was. And, I mean, it's just an issue that they have sometimes. And when they're dropping little hints of other things, I was good. I was like, I don't like the fact they're stretching this out as long. Nobody's going to believe you when you do finally answer it. We may not even actually, some of us might, and then it might be wrong again. You just never know. But at least you've got to give the viewer something. And this is not strictly, as we've discussed multiple times, it's not strictly a a cop show. The Blacklist of
It's
the
not
week.
a procedural and it's not a serialized. It's a mix.
It is. It's very much a mix of procedural and spy. It's a fun mixed genre. And so, I mean, if it were just a procedural show, you could get away with doing that with less mythology, but it's not. And I don't know if there's a plan there or if it's just their timing issue. The timing issue has been something I've complained about for a long time. The one that I always go back to is Bill McCready, that it took him, a full season worth to find Tom Keene, who was sitting, this master spy, Bill McCready, who trained the best of the best, couldn't find Tom Keene, who was sitting in his and his wife's favorite Chinese restaurant for months, for weeks. And so, I mean, it's stuff that basically, I don't want to call it easy writing, but it's stuff kind of gets shuffled off to handle other things. And right now, it's a lack of mythology that we're seeing. And it's problematic.
With the pacing, I understand a lot of the pacing, and maybe I understand it because I have a theory, and within my theory, that kind of makes sense and it's explained. Like, for example, I think I know exactly why Bill that particular day to go after Tom. And it's all related to Kate being actually not the lovely lady that she seemed to have been, but more of a foe waiting to strike. So I think that getting the day before the wedding was the way to go on the day of his wedding. So I'm fine with that. But this is episode 13 of a season, and we have got Tommy's Oleander and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, we learned the big splash of Red is Liz's father that some of us have been calling from episode 2 on.
Yeah.
Some people from the first episode on.
So we had two things. That Liz is Red's daughter. It's like, yeah, but I believed it when he told it to Kirk because I got what he was saying. He's going to answer he's Liz's father. He will not answer that he's Liz's father, but he will answer that Liz is his daughter. So that wasn't a big reveal. I mean, and maybe this is happening because we're maybe too far ahead.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, and the thing is, the reveal for Liz being his daughter, the actual reveal was at the end of season 4. We're 13 episodes into season 5.
Mm-hmm.
And they've killed a character. I mean, they slaughtered Tom. I mean,
without revealing anything about him.
Yeah, with leaving a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, we got a couple of things with the basically with the Alcyon and Whitehall, which is fine. I was fine with Whitehall. Just let me know that I'm going to get some of what happened to Tom, who took Tom, and all that, because that is part of the Blacklist. That's not part of Redemption.
I don't think they will, though.
I think they will. So I think that we both are saying the same thing. We're extremely frustrated because in all of season 5, we have got 0 reveals except that Dom is Oleander.
They're bringing Katarina back up. No, that was season 4. I'm trying to play through season 5 and what we've seen. And they were basically, they spent all of 5A setting Tom's death up. Setting this mystery up. We've got the bones that Tom was chasing down. And, I mean, but until that's revealed, there's really no more information on that. She's just following the trail. Mm-hmm. Which is no new information. It's just that particular storyline. It's nothing from the mythology. So you're right.
We have had basically a lot of parallels. This has been a parallel fest. Parallels everywhere, But as far as facts, something that you can, because when I tell people, well, but we had a lot of parallels that tells you how Red built their empire, but it's not a canon fact. And you know what? They're right. It's not a canon fact. And then on this one, maybe because I had already surmised that there was no way on Earth except that Garvey was law enforcement or intelligence, and that Singleton was in his pocket. So it's like we really didn't get anything in this episode. And I mean, not that I'm complaining. I love Dom, and whenever Brian Denny is on the screen, I'm happy. But I mean, something.
Yeah, it just
a little.
It fell short. It for all the there are very few things. This sounds horrible. I mean, because I've been such a raging fan for so long, but there are very few things that are getting me super excited this season. And the fact that Dom was coming back actually had me excited. I was pretty excited about it. I love Dom. One of my favorite hopes was that Tom was actually going to stumble across him, and it's funny in a way he sort of did without actually meeting him. But it just adds to my disappointment that he wasn't the one that came across him to find Oleander. But you know, the fact that Liz was sitting there, and it was Blacklister over on Tumblr, Blacklister214, that said you have this major spy, you have this incredibly intelligent FBI agent, that her boss was telling her, if you approach this guy, he's very dangerous, be careful. She's letting Dom walk out of her line of sight, she's sitting there and drinking with him, they're talking, she doesn't press him a whole lot, you know, just... There are a few clever turn of phrases in there where he avoids, you know, there was one that she asked if he and Katerina were friends, and he said, oh, I saw you once. He's staying on the course of talking about Katerina, but he doesn't have to directly lie to her.
Katerina is a little shiny object that you can put in front of the baby and like forget about everything else.
Yeah, and it just was kind of disappointing. And I sent a friend a message who has ceased to watch the show. She finally got, you know, was done with it and left after the fall finale. And I said, I swear to everything, she lives out in California. I said, you're gonna hear me if Liz doesn't find out who Dom is. I said, I'm gonna lose it. At the end of the episode, I said, I'm losing it. I was so mad. And so
I wasn't really expecting that she was going to find out who Dom was. But, I mean, man, give us a little something.
And that's it. Like, it needed something. And they're just, oh, she met him. Yay. And that's exciting. But it just fell short.
Again, from where I'm coming, from my theory point of view, she already met her mother in Emma. So this is just one more that she meets, and she has no idea who she's meeting. But even then, even a little something.
Even taking your theory, let's just for a moment, because you know I'm not on board with the
Carlos
Katerina. But just for the moment, let's say you're right about both of them. The audience doesn't know that either. The audience knows who Dom is, and that's what's different. Is we're sitting there and we know, and so we know what to expect, and that's where it feels like it's falling short. That, you know, you got to give us some sort of it comes back to the emotional payout that I've been talking about since the fall finale, that you've got to have that emotional payout. You can't just keep opening up this sinkhole of questions and never give anything back. I mean, yeah, sure, you can unload it all at the end and look at the pretty gift we have, but people are going to have lost interest.
Yeah. And I feel that at this time, you know, even the Garvey reveal of being law enforcement, I mean, I reasoned it in that podcast. It had to be. I mean, it was just written in, you know, it had like flashing neon lights saying Garvey is law enforcement. There was no way on earth he was not going to be law enforcement. That was obvious.
Well,
so now telling me is like, oh, yeah.
Looking back, we have all the dirty cops this season. And you and I had talked about how many dirty cops they were dealing with of various sorts this season, how they were paralleling. And this is what they've been working up to, is Garvey. The ultimate dirty cop. He's a U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, he's a U.S. Marshal, which is, you know, not a deputy of a U.S. Marshal. He is a U.S. Marshal. I mean, those guys have a lot of power.
Oh, I screamed. Like, it's the first time I've scared the cats, while watching Blacklist in a while. I screamed. I was like, oh, he's a freaking marshal. Holy crap, we're doomed. Everybody knows that's a big deal.
Yeah. So, it felt very much. So, we're both disappointed in that. And at this point, I'm seriously saying, and I've been always, you know me, I've been always a very staunch supporter and saying you got to be patient. This time, I'm joining the chorus of, guys, you got to just do a bit more.
Join us. I've been freakishly patient. I lost my patience. Join me.
Yeah, I'm right there. You want to talk about the task force?
Yeah, everybody was on their A game on the acting point. I very much enjoyed watching. I loved Wrestler's little moment. Yeah, we know he's cute. I thought that was adorable. Because I think he actually seems relatively happy for them. And that's nice to see Russ happy for them.
Yeah. I would love to see, and it's funny that Wrestler is beginning to recover a bit of that lightness that we just kind of saw only when he was with Audrey, because before he was like so super focused, and then after that he was into the drug stuff. So it's nice to see that he's actually beginning to understand that, you know what, world is not so perfect, but I'm okay, and I'm doing my job, and maybe that's enough.
Our little Wrestler's growing up. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, he's not a Boy Scout anymore.
Oh, poor guy. I very much enjoyed Wrestler. I feel like they've always had some issues with the balancing the characters, and there's been a lot of complaints about Wrestler kind of fading to the background, and he does here and there. But he gets his arcs, and then he fades, and then he gets his arcs, and then he comes back. It's what the story needs.
The secondary characters will always get that. A story here, and then they kind of fade, and then you get a little story, and then they kind of fade.
I've lost my character, though, so I'm like, no, I want to know what's happening with these people. Bring them forward. I'm right there with everybody cheering for it now.
Let's talk about the part with Red then, because it wasn't a lot of the Blacklisters. The Blacklisters were, they were like Natalie Luca, you were saying before. I agree. I didn't feel, if they had just stopped with the guys with the spill, I would have said, you know what? Those people really deserve bad stuff happening to them. Not sure that the bad stuff was to being buried alive, but a lot of people die there, horrible death.
Yeah, so, they kept saying that they did it in a legal route, and I'm going, I don't know how you kill an entire town and get away with it.
Oh, they do it all the time. You know that's the stories, and they cover it up, and they buy the people, and then they do the settlements. You know that they do that all the time. And, so that part was like, okay, well, they're bad people. But then you start going after gun manufacturers. It's like, that you're crossing a line there, because just because a gun is cheap doesn't mean that, that is a very gray line.
Yeah.
And it depends very much on where you stand. And so when you start killing those people, I'm really not comfortable.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree. Because it's not like that guy was going out and, handing them or handing them over to the gangbangers and marketing them to the gangbangers. That's It was, I agree. It was kind of an iffy subject anyway, and I don't know. I didn't have any sort of attachment to them. Like you said, we were talking before the podcast started. It was very much like Natalie Luca for me. I had so many people back then that they were going, oh, weren't they sweet? Don't you just love them? And I went, no, I really don't care. I didn't care at all.
They're not cute. They're not cute. They're not. So I didn't feel so, but it was an okay episode, an okay Blacklister, an okay work on the task force. Yeah. I enjoyed Cooper handling the file of Oleander. Now, you think it was a little suspicious that Cooper got that file so fast?
Maybe, but it also might have been TV magic that, just when they needed it. It could go either way.
Yeah, our dear Harold is holding secrets.
He might be. Cooper has a lot of secrets. It's certainly a possibility.
Then Red with the mailman. I mean, this is so funny because the mailman is making a lot of money, so he may be putting it away or I don't know what, but it wasn't enough to do his liposuction, or the guy is just a moron.
Could be either way.
But he decides that is nothing more than to steal a pack of cocaine out of a known drug dealer.
It could
a drug dealer called Big Little Willie.
No. Was it Big Little Willie?
Mm-hmm. Or Little Big Willie. Little Big Willie.
Yeah, I think that was it. The other way around would have been...
Basically, a 6'10" monster that is a gang member, and you're stealing the cocaine from him. And then you're blaming some other guy that ends up in probably what is the most graphic of all scenes that I have seen at 8 p.m. Dismembered body parts.
I don't know. They did the wood chipper last half of the season. The wood chipper was pretty bad.
I think this was worse.
Really?
It's actually body parts. The TV is so funny. It's like, don't show a breast. But, I mean, the body parts is fine, It's the sex that will get the little kids, all messed up. But the violence is great. Bring the wood chipper, cut people in pieces.
I was joking with someone the other day. I said, my parents were pretty good about, like, you can't watch this, it's too violent, it's too this, it's too that when I was a kid. But they never watched what I was reading. So I read some really violent comics. I said, this probably explains my writing in life now, because my writing tends to get pretty violent. It's because all of my reading was super violent. I was reading DC and Marvel and, like, blood flying everywhere and... in, manga comics with, like, the, body parts flying. And that was just a day in the reading for me. And so this kind of stuff doesn't faze me.
The Blacklist violence is very, very much cartoonish. The whole Blacklist is very cartoonish. I mean, the close-up, the dark interiors, and the teletransportation. So it's very, very cartoonish. The colorful names, the undertaking, the toy maker, the coroner.
Okay, I have to say this because both the roomie and I started cackling when they opened with the invisible hand, and they called themselves that, and we went, really? And then they started raising their hands like that, and we went, really? We were both in full mocking of the Blacklisters for this one. I mean, they were. What did I called them something? Dramatic hipsters or something to that degree.
They were like the kids that are like 7 years old, and they remain because their parents were killed, and they remain like those little kids they were inside at that age, and including with the secret society and
except they murder. It's a murdery secret society, and yeah, I agree. I feel like there was something staunched in their development there, but it was. There are certain genres that you can get away with those kind of names, and it's weird. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it was just a combination of all of it, but the secret hand with their little gesturing and just the way they were, it went into full mockery zone in the roomies in mine's apartment when we were watching.
But let's go back to the drug dealer, and then they start this war, and Red shoots the mailman. How funny was that? And he said,
we had to back it up. I looked away for 5 seconds, and Kira goes, the roomie goes, did he just shoot Anthony? And I went, I don't know. And I backed up and went, yep. And I made the comment.
And then he says it funny, like, they were fresh out of balloon. I'm sorry I shot you.
Yeah, that was funny. But on the more serious side of it, there is the whole thing of that he is continuously getting people caught in the crossfire of his war. And so it was interesting to see that because, I mean, he's gotten Tom killed. We don't know what the whole, we've had multiple people that have been caught in the crossfire of this. Baz died.
Yeah, but this is not really his war. I mean, this is a stupid.
I know, but
giant little Willie and
I understand
and Anthony
that. I'm not saying that, but he turns around and shoots. It's friendly fire, and I'm just like, it was funny. It was meant to be light as shooting your friend can be, but
It's red.
it was still interesting because so many people keep dying around him and getting injured and having to leave around him because of things that he does and chooses to do. And you find out afterwards that this wasn't all just by chance. Some of it, the reason that he pushed and pushed and pushed for Anthony to go was because he wanted to meet this guy. And by the way, honesty is the best policy, Red. Really? Since when?
Well, when it's convenient for him.
Yeah, maybe.
He just left the when it's convenient for me.
God, I yelled at the TV a little after that. And then it's been circling around Tumblr. I noticed that someone made the quote, and then a Karen Sia on Tumblr answered it with a gif of Chandler from Friends going, "Really?" And I went, "Oh, that's perfect."
Yeah, I mean, I read was it was a fun. I mean, that part was fun. And let's get to Dom and Liz, because this is where and Liz with Tom Box. So now we finally find out that Tom was investigating a lot of things. He just put it in a box, and Liz didn't have the key. Now, I wonder if they put a little tracking device on that key, because I don't know if you remember when they were visiting the toy maker, he said, the eye was just the beginning. I also made them, and then Red cut him off. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering what else did they put where that they need to be tracking, Liz. So, but here we are. We know that Tom had been investigating and keeping his notes. That's how she gets to Oleander.
I wonder when Liz found this. Did she just know that he kept it and just didn't, that was just okay?
He didn't have the key. I guess
I understand that, but I mean, he had it. He obviously had it. Did he have it in the house? Did she clear it away when she... Yeah, I mean, but... Tom wasn't going to have another hole in the floor. He knew better than that. And so, that I'm curious if she knew he had it and just...
Probably, and it's locked because there's a gun in there.
That's true. And that may have been, just assumed it was the gun safe and went on.
It was a gun safe. Yeah, it was a gun safe. So he had in there the stuff and I don't think it was meant to be hidden from her, but they took all his effects, and a year later they hadn't given to her.
Yeah.
So obviously she only brought back to the apartment the things that she needed to reconstruct the crime.
And it could be that she thought that there was something in there, that she knows how he thinks, and so she thinks that maybe he was hiding something under there, so she stored it away with everything else so that it wouldn't be taken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was interesting to see finally the little notebook. And the little box version 2.0 that Tom kept. It was very sad to see the box.
I did get a screenshot of all of his notes. I want to make sure to look at those later.
I have not looked at them. I was so upset with the episode that I didn't even rewatch.
Well, I rewatched it this afternoon just for the sake, because honestly, I didn't remember much from it. I watched it and I went, all right, and then I moved on with my life. And...
I watched the Dom parts. That's it.
I as disappointed as I was with the Dom parts, that was still the best part of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's get on to Dom.
Oh, Dom. We got Dom's last name. I was actually really excited about that.
Well, his fake last name.
Well, yeah, but it's
we
Blacklist.
Have no idea what his real name is.
Yeah, I mean, because everyone assumes it's... Well, I mean, no, they did assume it was Rostov, but then you find out that was her married name, so who knows what her maiden name was. But yeah, it's... I was excited to get that, because, I mean, Dom, that's all we got.
Yeah, but now I have a lot of things on Dom and Oleander.
And go. So
I know that finally we find out something about Dom. Dom was apparently this Soviet operative. Now, I don't know, but the CIA brings him in, or he's in here. They investigate and they let him go. I do not buy that for a second. Not for a second. That to me sounds like okay, we need to establish that Dom is a Soviet operative. So how about if we get the CIA to investigate him and open a nice file on him? So he's suspected of being a Soviet operative, and he's basically clear because of lack of evidence. So to me, that sounded like one of Red's charades. He needed somebody needed to get this guy to be an operative. And then I started thinking, well, you're getting Fitch, that was the Decembrist, and then you get Dom, that was Oleander, and everybody was operating in the Soviet Union. So this is starting to sound like the Katerina was a KGB agent, yet the Orea didn't know about her.
You know who we haven't heard mentioned in a long while?
Velov?
No, we heard him mentioned just in this episode. We haven't had the Cabal mentioned in forever. It's just Red had got a seat in the table. Red got a seat at the table, and then it was just shoved under the rug. I don't think it's been forgotten. I think he just needs it forgotten. Now, to be fair, the woman that he got the seat from is now dead. Mm-hmm. And so it may be that her sect of it is just gone, and so he no longer has a seat at the table. It depends on how high up he ended up.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because if you really think of the Night of the Fire, Garvey probably is Cabal.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. I mean, but they said early on, they talked about the Cabal being members of the government, of the, in the police force, all through all layers of the government. And that it totally makes sense for them to have had a U.S. Marshal at some level. He might have even been at the table.
Yeah.
Because Red still doesn't know his name. He doesn't know his face, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
I mean, he's had a year to research. I mean, who knows?
I think Red knew who he was as soon as he saw the Damascus knife part.
Could have.
Once he saw that. So, I mean, we know the Cabal is down there, and I think Garvey gotta be Cabal, because I think that even back then, I don't think he may have been a marshal. I think he was Navy or Army. That's what his ring is like.
But I think that they climb within the Cabal. I think that's a lot of the reason why people join the Cabal in this little universe that they live in, is because they get to climb. They get to, they meet people, they make connections, and it is. It's the bad guys club, They rule the world and make connections.
Yeah, they rule the world. And I think he's coming back to that, because there was an interesting thing in that interview with Bogenkamp, and he kind of explained the 2017. I don't think that you think you mentioned you didn't hear it. But he basically was saying the 2017 plan was basically the guys deciding that let's just take down the Soviet Union. For 25 years, we'll get insanely rich. We'll control the world. We'll just start a war. That we create another war. We just get very rich. And then at the end of 25 years, we bring back the bipolar world. And so Fitch was the conservative that wanted to wait for the 25 years that was 2017. Peter was worried. He said, well, actually, if you start looking at it, Peter was one of the good guys. He was worried that the world was too unstable, and he wanted to bring back the bipolar world earlier than 2017 because he was concerned that it was getting to be way too bad. So, I mean, it's a kind of like an insane plan, but it kind of worked. I mean, they all got very rich.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, is that they grew within what they were. No, he probably wasn't a U.S. Marshal at the time, but he climbed the ranks within this. I mean, because we've seen all of them do that, except for Red. I personally think that Katerina was involved in the Cabal as well. I think
it was the father, one of the fathers.
Potentially, but I've always thought that maybe Katerina, and that maybe even Scotty or Howard were. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about Scotty and Howard, because the Hitchens hated them.
doesn't mean that they weren't part of it and then left. I could see that being a pretty... Or, you know, in the early days, when, you know, or had some sort of connection to it. I think that Scotty and Katarina knew each other. I mean, because we know Red and Howard did. So I've always thought that Scotty and Katarina knew each other, had connections. My assumption is it comes through the Cabal on some level, through the spy ring. And so that's just
we know they had to.
Yeah.
Because of all the contractors in the world, Rostov went for that particular one.
Yeah.
No. And then there is that lovely picture of a woman, a dark-haired woman with a girl blowing bubbles. That is right there in the wall where we have this long scene with Red and Scotty. And in that wall, there's all these celebrities and politicians. In that room, there are 3 pictures that are personal. Her with Howard and Christopher as a baby, a golden retriever on the wall, and the picture of that woman with a girl blowing bubbles. So, I mean, bubbles. How many girls blowing bubbles are there in a show?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that they're all interconnected. That was one of the reasons I was so convinced that they weren't going to kill Tom, because he was the tie there. And so that's
Did you find a little upsetting the fact that Dom didn't seem to react at all to the fact that his granddaughter had lost her husband?
Oh, I think he did. You don't think he did?
He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss," but I didn't.
I saw the initial reaction when he opened the door with her, but he's a trained covert operative. He's going to bury a lot of that. And so I think he did react to it. I mean, one, he didn't know Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And
that we know of.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Tom could have come across him, but I also think that if Tom had come across her grandfather, any way, shape, or form, he would not have kept that from her.
If he knew.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If he didn't know that is very accurate. But no, I think that for a covert operative trying to keep his secret, I think we saw a lot from him on that. I loved, okay, I made my first gift compilation for the Blacklist in forever from this episode with his little eye roll he had going there when he was talking about Red. And so I don't know if you
shot
saw
up pretty good there.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but I made a little mini gift set of him and Liz from the previous episode rolling her eyes at Red. I said the eye rolling is strong in this family or something like that. The frustration with Red is strong with this family.
Yeah, it was interesting. Their meeting was very interesting, and it's amazing that Dom, you could tell that I think that he was an operative. I'm not saying he wasn't, and I'm pretty convinced he's Oleander, basically because he said it. But I mean, that was pretty impressive. He came across his long lost granddaughter who he hadn't seen since she was, 3, 4 years old. And, he kept it together.
He did. He is impressive. But no, I thought that for the situation he was in, with the training he would have had, everything coming together, that we saw just enough. He played it very subtly, and I thought he did very well with it. I mean, as far as we know, he never knew Tom, so he's not going to have the same reaction. It's just going to be his estranged granddaughter of 30 years lost her husband. That's horrible. My condolences. It's, there's going to be something, but he didn't know her, or he didn't know Tom. And so,
no, I wasn't expecting that, like, oh my God, Tom is dead. I was expecting like a little more, the condolences part was a little, yeah, I know he couldn't do much, but I didn't even see much coming through his eyes or anything in there.
See, I did. I felt like it was very well played. That's just,
there was, a little point in there, the way that he kept redirecting, reminded me so much of Red. Just keep talking about something else, you know. Katerina was the thing, and it was funny because there was a great moment where they're both sitting there and they're talking about Katerina. And for a second, they seemed like both to be having such a great time.
Yeah, I mean, because they were reminiscing about her without any secrets being revealed. And so, I mean, for the first time in probably 30 years, Dom was finally able to sit down and talk about his daughter with someone that he doesn't blame for her disappearance. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as we know, Red's the only one he's been able to talk about Katerina with, and he won't because he blames Reddington. And so this is the first time he's gotten to talk about her fondly with anybody. Mm-hmm. But
it was a nice job of redirecting. Like, yeah, I saw you with her once and all that. And
definitely a nice job of redirecting there.
I found interesting that the age he chose to say that he saw with Katerina is 3 years old, which is the last time that Liz was at the Tacoma Park house. Because I think that by now, and after Requiem, and especially after the deleted scenes where you see the hair of Liz hair at that age, that is pretty obvious that Liz is Bubbleglar. I mean, would you say not?
I don't know yet. I mean, it looks very similar. I think that they're trying to get to that, but I don't know for sure. They did a lot of cutting with her with that hair. A lot of deleted scenes where that was that little actress. Honestly, I don't know if it's just TV, because, I mean, these are the people that chose an entirely different breed to replace the dog when the first dog passed away. So sometimes...
But the dog wasn't a point.
No. I'm just saying sometimes the choices that they make on casting confuse the crap out of me. Like, I think they go back. I heard Knopf do an interview once where he was talking about something and someone asked him, well, where's that coming from? He goes, no one's going to ask that question. And I'm sitting there going, that's not true. That's not how it works.
But not with this kind of show.
Yeah, with this kind of show, we all ask that question every time. Every question gets asked. But I have a hard time with all the little actresses because, I mean, obviously you're going to have a different little actress because the little girl that played her in season 2, yeah, she's too big. She can't play a 3-year-old. And so I don't know if it's just something in the little girl or if they made a choice. I don't know what their choice, like why they made the decision that they made for the little actress that they chose. If the hair was intentional or that little actress just happened to have that hair, I don't know. And without that information, I can make assumptions, but that's all they are, is assumptions.
Well, to me, the fact that she's there at 3 years old, and the fact that when Liz is kidnapped and they said, you wouldn't let me see her, and Dom choosing now to say that saw her at 3 years old, because that's probably we've seen Tom do this enough to know that he will take a little detail that is true, and then he will make it into something else. But that little piece of truth sells the part that is a lie. So I think that there was that I mean, to me, I'm fairly convinced Liz is Bubble Girl, which means Liz was at that house at 3 years old.
I think it's very possible. I think it's incredibly possible that she was. I don't know. For all the reasons that I just said, I don't know.
Yeah, it would be lovely to know. That's another one of those things it would be lovely to know.
Eventually, I assume we will. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine not knowing who Ballerina is. I may have my ideas. There are theories. To me, it's Jennifer. But, I mean, Bubble Girl, come on. See, you play that scene, and once you saw the hair of that actress, it's like, oh, so Liz at 3 years old had longer hair. So, how fun was to see Red and Liz doing a little interrogation together?
I've seen people call parallels. My immediate thought for the I
wonder what that makes.
Soldering gun was Tom with the medical drill, and I'm just like, these two were together a long time. You know?
Yeah, they got in there.
They had a lot of parallels with those two, and they continue to have a lot of parallels with those two, and it both makes my heart happy and makes me very angry all in one fell swoop.
Yeah. It was so much fun because we had before, like, she learned to use a sniffer packet with Tom. By the way, and Tom learned it from Aram. That's what they use on Amanda Bigelow.
Yeah. Well, he may not have learned it from Aram, but Liz made the comment in that episode. She said, we use it in the FBI, too. I still say my favorite thing about her comment about learning it from Tom is the fact that they sat around and he got to talk about this thing that used to be his entire life, the job, and got to talk to her about things. Because I remember in season 2 how excited he was when he got to tell her, well, just sneeze. If you need to distract him, sneeze. He was so freaking excited to be able to tell her something real. And
something that Red picked up immediately and saved her out of that one.
And so the idea that they sat around after Agnes was in bed, sat around with their glasses of wine and talked about fun little things, little tricks he knows, and swapped ideas and had this spy couple conversation. Just, I'm both, like I said, both elated and disappointed at the same time because there's no more of it, and that's my life with the Blacklist these days. Lots of mixed bag of emotions.
I gotta say, I know that probably they said that he's dead and he's dead and he's dead. There's a part of me that continues to get this little bugging thing, like, Christopher Hargrave is dead and Tom King is dead, but Christopher Hargrave wasn't really his name, because Hargrave is not the name of Howard. He was born in Poland. Hargrave was not his name.
Might have been. Just because he's born in Poland doesn't mean he doesn't have like a British dad or something.
Probably if he had one, he would have changed his name too.
I don't know.
Because it was a Cold War.
Regardless, it's possible that Tom's alive. I would love for him to be alive, but even me at this point, I'm sitting here going, because I've been planning to write this Fix It AU, and I'm sitting here looking at this and going, because I was wanting to wait to see what they did with the back half of 5, and I'm going, this whole thing is just, even if he pops up at the very tail end, it's like, oh, look, I'm alive. It's going to feel just so forced, and like it was just a cheap writing gimmick to get her exactly where they needed her to go without it being organic, and it's gonna really piss me off.
Well, but it's gonna be exactly the same what happened to Katerina, because you don't think Katerina's dead too.
I don't think Katerina's dead, but I don't. It may just be my personal opinion of Tom and how much I adore the character. Everybody here knows I'm compromised on this. This is not a secret. I don't try to say otherwise. No, I'm compromised on this character.
So I think that we pretty much covered everything. I gotta say, this is the first time in which I am actually disappointed. I've had moments of anger when I thought, oh, they're changing the end game. I know that they're not changing the end game, but people... Really, you need to give a little more. Dom is Oleander. I got a squirrel in my attic. Really? Excuse me, I'm here. You're hearing me and you're chewing on something?
I told you about the time that the squirrel thought my truck was a bed and breakfast, yeah?
Oh, no. How fun.
Yeah, I got my wisdom teeth out a few years ago, and so my truck was just sitting outside my parents' house for like a week while I slept off the medication. Mm-hmm. Went in and got it a week or two. I don't remember how long it stayed there, but I went in and the engine did something really funky. It turned out there had been a squirrel that had nested in there. I may have fried him. I hope not, but I guess.
Yeah, my husband found squirrels or mice. And you know that they started putting the covers of the wires are actually made of corn.
Yeah, that's what
Yummers!
The guy at the auto shop said. Yeah, it's supposed to be, you know, better for the environment and stuff, but it also like attracts varmints because they're like, oh, tasty food. He thought my truck was a bed and breakfast. Thanks, dude. You know? It was like,
I'm right here, and I'm hearing the little guy just like
I can hear him.
Yeah, that's not a dog. That's a damn squirrel.
I want to keep this in the podcast. Oh my god, this has been fun. This is just chaos podcast tonight.
Yeah, it's been a chaos podcast, and writers. We are a little disappointed here.
Okay, writers, when Tessa joins me on the Grape Fest, you know.
You overdid it, because I've been the most staunch supporter. But I gotta say, Dom is only entering 13 episodes, and Garvey is law enforcement, something that they already had given us before. I mean, now they're just like, you know.
This is what I've been saying. I wouldn't judge them so harshly if I didn't have 4 seasons to say you were better than this. I know the talent. You cannot fool me.
Yeah, because, at this point, if you're really trying to enlarge things so much, please don't do this to the Blacklist. They did it to the X-Files, and it was horrendous. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and when they get to the end, they get to the end. Either you get to the end or you don't get to the end, but when you don't and you start like, it just feels like, oh my God, drag it. Are you kidding me? 13 episodes. 13 episodes we were in the Cypress Agency and the Deer Hunter. We have got the entire Fire Recall in season 2. We have got to Alistair Pitt. We got through the entire thing of the director. We had we were in Isabella Stone. We were starting on that exciting, and this zero. 2 little things.
Welcome aboard, Tessa. We've been here.
I know, but I haven't. And
I know. It's frustrating. You see why I've been so frustrated?
Yeah.
This is it.
Plus I made a lovely gift set, which I'm not fan of the gifts, because I think that when you use them to illustrate a concept, for example, Red is not her father but her lover, you get a lot of weird things because they do eliminate little moments. Basically you're just taking a little picture and creating a movie by eliminating.
It can be edited down, certainly, and that's
you lose micro expressions that are very important. But
you can also capture micro expressions. You just have to get used to the GIFing process. But yeah, you can capture some micro expressions.
You lose something, you may be able to capture a little of the moments, but in general, you tend to lose. Whenever I do analyze them, I always go back to the real thing. But that's beside the point. My point was that I made these things of the first time that Dembe tells Red, you have to tell her, and I think you forget because this is season 1. No, this is season 2 when Dembe tells her you have to tell her. And Red first looks like, tell her what? It's a foreign concept.
I think originally
tell her everything. You tell him about Tom by telling him everything. And Red is stricken. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You don't think about it. You do it. And Red expression is priceless. He's there that's something that had occurred to me.
The truth? What?
I don't know how to do that. It's very telling.
What is this truth that you speak of? I don't understand.
It's very funny because when you see that and then you go back and you see Dembe telling him over and over, almost every season, you have to tell her. And then you have Dom telling her, you have to tell her. And even Carla, when are you going to tell her? So there is all these people, and then finally the people who give her the truth is Cooper, is Tom, and is Dembe.
Well, we saw what happened to Tom. Watch out, Dembe and Coop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to come in those secrets. But I don't think it is, I think that the secrets is all about Reds, because he had things left to tell her when he was gone. So it's basically shame or is fear of his own. So, yeah, give us stuff, and honestly, give us more stuff.
All right, well, yeah, just come on, Blacklist writers. We know your talent level. That's all we're asking for. Think that about wraps us up. You have anything else to add?
No, because there was not much in terms of mythology here.
Yeah, there wasn't much in terms of much in this episode. It felt like a filler episode to a great degree. It kind of was.
What do we have the task force do while Gret runs around trying to find a way into the Nash syndicate, and Liz meets Dom?
There were 2 points. There was Liz meeting Dom, and there was Red getting to the Nash syndicate. Everything else was basically filler.
Yeah.
So, we are on Facebook, we are on Tumblr, and we are on Twitter. You can listen to us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people that have said very nice things, and we will post them soon. As soon as my cold is clear and I can think. However, it was fine to understand that there was no mythology in the show, just in case that you're going to say that it's because of my head. No.
You know what? I haven't had a cold, and I thought that as well. So,
there we are. Yep. All right, kiddos. See you next week.
Well, no, we won't. Olympics. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 3 weeks until we have the episode.
Yes, I think so. I think it's 3-week break. But there was rumor that they were going to break for like multiple weeks in spring hiatus. But they're coming back apparently pretty quick. So
we're gonna get like what, 4 episodes more and then another 5 more?
I don't even know. They're funky this year. Whatever. It's Olympics. They're in a. I thought they were only doing 1 episode. I didn't realize this episode was coming in until someone, I think Allie, mentioned it, and I was like, oh, good to know. I should probably tune in on Wednesday. So, all right. Well, we will see you guys after the Winter Olympics. As an American, I'm going to go Team USA. But hopefully everybody
I'm particularly cheering for the skiers, and for very personal reasons.
And hopefully everybody is safe and healthy and does well. And so,
all right.
Bye.